Hello, you're welcome to Learn from Chess Blitz, episode number 10, Sunday edition. So, the show that gives you an opportunity to play and learn chess simultaneously. I'm happy you're watching this. If you're new to the show, we are playing on leechess.org. You can go there and find me by nickname Mostrovsky and also challenge me to a 5-minute Blitz game. So, my primary goal usually is to play a game against you and then to explain what happened so that you can learn something new about chess. If you learn at least something, just a tiny portion of information, I'm happy. So my goal is accomplished. So let us play several games before the challenges from viewers came. Just a second. I do hope that you can hear me and see me normally. So here is the first entry on live chat from Twyhosex. Hello, chess friends. Hello, my friend. So just let me know if the stream is all right. So let's play 3 minutes just before the challenges came. Maybe 1 or 2 games, we'll see. Because my main idea is, of course, to play against viewers. That's the point. But at the moment, we'll just play something. Stream is perfect. Okay, great. So d4, knight f6. Today the topic is playing solid, which means taking no risks, maybe not. So, what does it mean? c3, not very ambitious move, so c4 is of course the ambitious continuation here. So this means white prepares something like maybe Trumpovsky after bishop g5, maybe London system after bishop f4, maybe just Collis system or something like this after e3, bishop d3. In each and every case, I think it is a good idea for black just to occupy the center, and yeah, d5 looks natural now. Bishop g5, okay, let's clarify the things with the bishop immediately. Bishop goes to h4. Now let's undermine the center with the c5. e3, all right. Now knight goes to c6, so it's a natural square for the knight after c5 move. Knight e2, probably preparing something like e4. I don't think that e4 is possible right away. So let's just keep developing the pieces. And takes c5, okay. So I think I can spend the time on taking on c5 here if I want. So let's take it, because this pawn is very important. Alright, white develops the knight, improves the position of the piece, but at the moment I think I control the center better. So yeah, I probably spent several moves, but I didn't drop the material, first of all. And second of all, I have good position in the center. Now I have to understand what to do with this center. So to play e5 now, grabbing the space and proceeding with this pawn's motion. Or just to play something like, I don't know, b6, bishop b7. So since we played solid today, let's play b6, bishop b7. Alright, c4 is more or less ready, but okay. I don't think it's dangerous. Queen c2, probably preparing c4. So let's put the rook on c8. Queen goes back to d1. That was strange. That was strange, to be honest. Now I think it's time to do something in the center. So knight goes to e4, bishop takes, knight takes. Knight goes to d2. Okay. So once again, maybe preparing c4. So let's put the knight on d6, controlling this square, additionally. And now this knight might be annoying potentially, so what about just getting rid of it immediately? I control g6 square, so it is not very risky to play this f6 e5. This weakens light squares, of course, but I think I will have enough resources to protect them. Okay, so a7 is under attack. How to protect it? Maybe with the help of this move or not? Don't know. Let's play a5. Only 27 seconds, that is annoying. So let's try to be faster a bit. Queen here. Let's get rid of it if my opponent wants. If not, then probably queen here makes sense. Let's see. Okay. It is not very dangerous. I control the situation. But the clock. Yeah, the clock is very, very annoying now. Only 20 seconds. All right. Let's try to activate the things a bit. Now the bishop exerts some pressure on g2. Yeah, my son is screaming. Don't know what to do. No time. Simply no time. That's annoying. Of course, position is very good, but I have no time to convert it probably. So just too many things still to happen. I just have no time to accomplish everything here. But of course, black is much better now. Okay. Let's activate all the pieces and direct them to the king side, where I have some chances. So the queen on a4 is misplaced, as we can see. Alright, don't know what to do here. Simply no time. Yeah. Position is very promising, but I'm just losing on time. SPD. Yeah. Lost on time in an absolutely winning position. Yep. Okay. One man streaming, one kid screaming. That's true. That's true. Absolutely. So I'm still waiting for challenges from viewers. Come on. Let's do it. And before these challenges came, let's play one more game probably. So 3 minutes. 3 minutes is probably not enough to play the normal chess and explain the things. At least it is not enough for me. So I prefer quite slow reasoning and so forth. Moreover, I'm not quite fit today. So actually I got a flu or something like this. This definitely makes my mind work not so fast. And instead of coffee, I'm drinking tea, which is also unusual thing. Don't like it. Game aborted. Wow. Okay. New opponent. Let's play somebody else. Azure Mist is here. Hello. Probably you will be the first challenging me. You're welcome. Just do it. Before you did, we just played chess with regular players on leadchess.org. So here is the first challenge. Great. Castles. Bishop e7. Ruy Lopez d3 protecting e4, so there is a threat of taking on c6 and taking on e5. So let's prevent it. And Radix challenged as well. Good. So knight c3 intends in knight d5, right? Right. Let's play d6. Let's play d6 and let's try something active maybe. What about bishop g4? not even protecting this b5 pawn. Is it interesting or not? Let's try it. Bishop g4. So the point, if a takes b5, I just put the knight on d4, damaging the pawn structure most likely. Yes, I sacrifice some material, but look at this pawn structure on the king side. Potentially can be just a checkmate very soon. And there is an interesting question, to take with the knight or to take with the bishop. Don't know. Let's take with the knight. Bishop h3. So 2 pawns down now. 2 pawns down, but the pawn structure is damaged. And the king feels not very comfortable there. Fuchs is here. Hello. So let's go and checkmate him. If it is possible, of course. So position is not that simple. Position is not that simple. So what about bishop g5, ignoring even the rook on a8? So bishop g5, bishop takes a8, bishop takes c1, then knight goes to f4. I think it will be very good. Or maybe even bishop f4. Yeah, so let's do it. Yeah, bishop f4, blockading everything and creating this threat of queen g5 and queen g2 checkmate. But here is knight e2, the move that I probably just missed. But can I take on h2 now? Is there a checkmate in general? I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the time to do what? To regain some material. Because I'm not sure there is a checkmate. Wow. So bishop h2, king h2, queen h4. Knight goes to g3, or maybe king back to g1. No, it's too much. It's just too much. So let's start with check. And now take this bishop. So I'm an exchange down and 2 pawns. 2 pawns are also missing, so a7. a7, alright. What to do now? How to continue the attack? This knight on g3 is very annoying. So maybe just attack this knight. Can I? Attack this knight. Somehow. For example, this way. I will be terribly surprised if there is simply nothing in this position for black. But, well, maybe white is just a guy. Is this the play solid show? Well, guys, I will play solid against viewers. That is just a regular game, right? I was waiting for your challenges. So very soon everything will happen. No worries. Rook e2. Okay, what to do with this position? I have no idea, but I think that I have to save the knight on the board. I have a feeling. And just to proceed with some sort of attack of this kind. There is already a threat of just winning the game. My goodness. Yeah, I definitely did something wrong. No questions. That was not a good idea to play this way in general. So just a few tricks, no compensation. I'm just losing here. Alright, it is lost, simply. Just check, yeah, it takes the bishop and it's over. It's over with a checkmate, yeah. That was very, very disappointing, to be honest. So let's have a look. Is there something for black? Because after this, I thought I had a good compensation for all this. The no takes, bishop h3 looked very, very natural. Now here, bishop d5. Okay, I played bishop g5. Takes here. So maybe bishop f4 is not correct. What about taking on c1? For example, queen takes c1, and now knight goes to f4. In this case, there is a threat of queen g5 with the checkmate. Let's say the same knight e2. Well, strangely enough, white is okay here. So I can't see the way to finish him. That's very strange. Yeah, so maybe it was just too much to play this way. You know, maybe it was better for me just to take on f3 with a bishop. And after g takes f3, I could have played something like knight takes b3 if I wanted. Maybe it makes also sense to start with something like c6 here, just a prophylaxis. I mean, knight e4 takes here, bishop h3, rook e1, and something like c6. Also interesting idea, just covering d5, preventing this knight e5 or bishop d5, and then so forth. So just knight g4, knight h5 or something. So now let's come back to challenges from viewers. All right. So here we go. Here's the challenge from Ridix. So let's play Ridix to start with. Ridix is playing white. So I won 4 games that happened earlier against this guy. But, well, as far as I remember, Ridix plays very, very test and chess, so have to be very careful. Here we go. You're welcome. Ridix, hello. What's going on? It says you're not online. Alright, maybe you will re-challenge a bit later. So let's play Kazan. Now I'm playing with white. So let's do the things. e4. And now I'm going to play solid. Really solid, without this stupid attacks like in the previous game. It was very tempting, but it was probably not prepared well. That's why I didn't succeed. Or maybe there was another reason. Maybe, as I said, I'm just feeling not very good today, not at my best shape, and hence make stupid mistakes, missing resources, and so forth. Okay, in any case, d6 is Staney's defense, classic line. So here I think it makes sense to occupy the center with a d4 move. I usually do this. Exactly. Takes on d4, and now there is usually a choice between taking with the knight and actually taking with the queen. Preparing bishop takes c6, knight c3, bishop somewhere, and castling. Castling long. So it's not necessarily a risky line for white because white controls the center well. So everything is fine. But I think knight takes d4 is slightly more natural because it is a tempo move, right? Just attacking the knight. Okay, now bishop c6. Looks natural now, just damaging the pawn structure. And, well, having this typical slight advantage maybe. Not sure, let's do it. Preventing any sort of problems. Now knight c3. So the pawn structure is slightly better for white. Black, of course, has the compensation pair of bishops. But there is also another issue with black's position here. So black lacks a free development. So there is a lack of space mainly. Knight f6. So now, there is a possibility to play bishop g5. or to play something like bishop e3, or just castling with the bishop f4 and further e5. Probably just bishop f4 right now. Also an interesting move, why not? So just develop the bishop and can think of playing e4, e5 if black gives me a chance to do this. So if I manage to play e5, for example, and black takes on e5, and bishop takes e5, this pawns c6, c7, and a7 become even more vulnerable. I mean, I really get the access to those weaknesses and can attack them later on. So let's castle now. To start with, and now just h3, slight prophylaxis controlling g4 square, preventing bishop g4 or knight g4. So now e5 becomes very natural. Can I play e5 now? Then after d takes e5, bishop takes e5, there's something like bishop b4, attacking my bishop and forcing me to make a decision. Maybe it makes sense to start with rook e1, just preparing this carefully. After all, we play solid today, so everything should be carefully prepared. For example, now I think that I can play e5. Does it make sense to prepare it additionally with the queen f3 already attacking this pawn c6? I'm not sure. At least queen f3 creates sort of threat like bishop g5, pinning the knight and maybe forcing bishop back to e7, which is quite ugly for black. But I think if I play queen f3 here, then black plays something like c5. So this might be not very good for me. So the knight has been forced away from the center, and then bishop c6 comes, pinning my pawn e4. So there might be not so simple situation for playing e4, e5. So yeah, let's play e5. I think now it's possible to do. Everything looks more or less prepared now. And now look at these pawns, especially the one on c7 became definitely much more accessible. So now I can attack it directly. And after d6 went away, there is also the problem with the c5 square potentially, so it can be a great outpost for my knight. That is what happens if the pawn structure is being damaged on the queen side and you don't care about white's e4, e5 move. c5, okay. So now where the knight should go? I think to b3, still okay. Then c4 comes, but then knight to a5 can be played attacking c4, most likely. There is also a possibility to put the knight on f3. In both cases, there is a threat of bishop takes f6. You know what is better? Let's put the knight on b3. Because potentially I think I will have a chance to attack this c5 pawn. Azure missed Andre. I will probably challenge later. Keep up crushing. Thank you. At the moment, I have to win at least one game because I'm being crushed. But thank you anyway. The question, not the question, but an interesting comment from Fuxia. I wouldn't have taken e5, just knight e5 and ask what's next. Knight takes d5, cd5, and then e takes d6, and black ends up with doubled pawns d5 and d6 along the d file. That was my intention at least. So I'll show you that after the game on the board. You can visualize it now, but it will be clearer soon after the game. In fact, black has to do everything to prevent e5. So to put the knight on e5, maybe through maneuvering it through g4 to e5, or at least to play c5, bishop c6 earlier, just having the chance to mate it normally. All right. Now, what to do now? There are several interesting options, including just some simplification after knight d5. I guess I should do it because, again, I don't have enough time. Queen takes, get into c5. I mean, getting closer. c5 is under attack. And I want to play rook a to d1, which will be also very annoying. All right, c6. c6, queen to c4, or queen to f3. Let's put the queen on f3, because on c4 it is slightly vulnerable after bishop e6. After getting to f3, I have in mind queen g3, still this rook d1, and I still control c6, so I don't think that black has a chance to go away with the bishop from d7 square so easily. Alright, this gives me a chance to damage the pawn structure even more and to win the pawn on c5, so that is a fatal mistake. It's over now. Absolutely lost position for black. And we keep playing solid, so c3 protecting the pawn. The knight controls d3 square, so I can play this b4. No problems with that because my c3 pawn is invulnerable. Now I have to do what? Just to simplify position. The ideal endgame for me is kind of the knight against the bishop. So now I grab the space and prepare the centralization of the king. Alright. So now the bishop is completely limited, not only with the knight, but also with my pawns. Let's put another rook to the active position. I could have captured a7, of course, but well, having all the pieces in the game is usually very, very good. It is a guarantee that you won't actually blunder anything and so forth. Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look at what happened here. So actually what I did here is created this weakness on c6, but it was not that dangerous for black. In my opinion, it's much more natural in such a situation to bring the bishop to g7 square. So I would consider playing g6 here 100%, putting the bishop on g7 square because here it is much more active. And in any case, black tries to do what? To bring the bishop to this diagonal sooner or later. So after you play bishop e7, knight f6, you have to waste the time after that, right? So knight should go somewhere, then bishop goes to f6, and it's not clear if you will find a good square for the knight. Here you're not forced, so you just put the bishop on g7, then the knight can be placed on f6 or maybe on e7, also normal square. And then you want to do what? To use these diagonals with the bishop, so maybe to play c5 at some point, and just kicking my knight away, so the rook goes to b8, exerting pressure on b2, and knight through e7, let's say, gets to c6. Also very natural approach. Yes, you give me d5 square maybe, but you also control a lot in the center, like e5, d4, and diagonal in general becomes very, very important, and the bishop should be there simply. So knight f6 is not a mistake, of course, but after bishop f4, we may notice that there is already sort of problem with this e5, so you have to be ready to meet it somehow. And I would have played here something like c5 immediately, just clarifying the things with the knight. Knight goes away, bishop goes to c6. Alright, I can play e5 here, of course, but first of all, I'm not that prepared, and you're not forced to take. So after that, you will just bring the knight to d7, or maybe to h5, maybe to g4 even, and you are more or less fine in my opinion. What happened in our game after bishop e7, I castled, played this h3. Again, this c5 followed by bishop c6 was possible. And probably the best thing you could have done. Rook e8, rook e1, still c5, but bishop f8 already gives me a chance to play e5 with a very good consequences for white and really ugly position for black, in my opinion. So now these pawns will be constantly weak. You will feel it on each and every move. So most likely you just struggle to find a good way after that, a good way to activate your pieces, I mean. So knight d5 that was suggested in chat. I just take on d5, cd5, and e takes d6. That was the point. So now, all right. In this case, of course, there's doubled pawns and they are ugly, absolutely. But there is another suggestion after knight e5 to take on e5 first. Okay, let's see what is going on here. That's an interesting move. Yeah, that is an interesting move, of course. Yeah, that was probably a move. That was probably a continuation, to be honest, because I can't see a refutation of that. So if I take on c7, then queen takes c7, bishop goes to g3. Okay. That is absolutely playable position for black. I'm not sure if that white is even better there. If I take on e5, let's say with the rook, rook takes, bishop takes, cd5. Everything is fine. Just yeah, only a slight vulnerability of these pawns, but it's not really dangerous. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. After knight e5, there is an interesting intermediate move d takes e5. Yeah, maybe I'm blind and don't see the tactics, but it looks like a playable position. Absolutely. So maybe I have to take this way, cd5, and now I have to attack d5 somehow. For example, with the queen f3, but then c6. Yeah, it's playable. Maybe white is just slightly better here, having some initiative after c4, maybe after rook to d1, but not more than that. All right. Okay. Yeah, thank you for this recommendation. That was definitely much better than taking on e5. So after that, just bishop takes e5, and I'm fine. So the rest was, well, in my opinion, not very hard for white to accomplish. So I just find good positions for my pieces. It's not that hard because my knights are very maneuverable here, and I have a lot of good squares, including c4, for example. So I can get there through d2, through a5, and so forth. So knights are very good in playing against doubled pawns and damaged pawn structures in general. And here I have the access to those pawns. I have the access to those squares. So thanks a lot for this game. Let's keep playing. Here is another challenge. So let's play. And again with whites. All right, e4. Any tips to improve my blitz? Come on, man. I don't know your level to start with. Or did I play against you this last game? So Caro-Kann. Let's play solid against Caro-Kann. Bishop f5, the classical line. Bishop g6, right h4. So tips to improve in blitz are usually almost the same like for classical games. Just learn more, train more. For blitz, what is really important is to be sharp-minded, so you have to be in really good shape. So train tactics mainly, because blitz is like calculation of very short lines quickly. So If you want to improve your blitz, I would definitely work on tactics mainly. And also learn some openings to play the opening stage quickly, right? Okay. And play more in general, yeah. Bishop h7, bishop to d3. Queen d3. So there is an interesting question. I don't understand why people are still playing the bishop f5 in Caro-Kann. Why not? It's just a normal playable line. Just a good one, I think, for black. It's very solid. White has to work really hard to achieve anything there. And white has to learn a lot, just tons of materials. The light squared bishop moves 4 times and then it's traded off. True, but black achieves a good control over light squares after that, because white usually puts his pawns the way that light squares are vulnerable, and the absence of white's light squared bishop is, in many cases, very noticeable and very bad. So yeah, it is being traded off, but then black puts all his pawns on light squares. Within this pawn structure, the most natural approach is to put the pawns on e6 and c6, right? To kind of blockade this d4 pawn. And it's better to bring the bishop somewhere to exchange it prior to doing it. Otherwise, black is very passive. That's the idea. Knight e7 Karpov line is much more active. Yes, but there is a very simple way for white to tame it, like to play knight f3, then to take on f6, c3, and black is again kind of forced playing something passive after bishop g4, exchanging the bishop and so forth. Kasparov did it in their match, agreeing to a draw in each and every game he played that system against knight e7, but he came up with very good positions. So he simply didn't want to play those days. That was the reason. Okay. So castles. Alright, so the main line here goes knight to e4 as far as I remember. The point is to prepare g3 with the bishop f4. What was the idea with h4? To grab the space on the king side. So h4, h5, as we can say, I fix the pawn on h6. Black can't really play f6 now because this really weakens g6 square. And according to the pawn structure, white's typical idea is to bring the knight to e5 to occupy this square. So once the knight is on e5, black has no chance to kick it away with the pawn, which means that black will probably have to take on e5, giving me this e5, h5 against h6, e6 kind of advantage in space, typical one, giving me a chance to push my pawns there on the king side. And also, if black doesn't take on e5, then my knight can be there on e5 for a long time, exerting pressure. That's the point. So h4, h5 is not really an attack against the bishop. It's just grabbing the space, and bishop is just there to help with this plan. That's the point. And h5 is, a vulnerable spot for white as well. So every decision in chess has advantages and disadvantages. There is no surprise. So you have to take some risks sometimes to achieve something. Otherwise, it's not possible to achieve anything. All right, bishop d6. Now what to do? So c4, bishop c3. Since f4 is already controlled, just knight e5 immediately is also a move. King b1, preparing everything carefully. Let's play king b1 here, but I do believe that king b1 is not the best move. But we play solid, so I want to play c4 only after my king is already on b1 and not vulnerable to anything connected with c4, c6, c5, and so forth. So now, knight e5 is okay. I think. Another option is just to play c4, because I don't think that e6, e5 is a threat. It can be, of course, but I think it's not a good idea to give up a bishop for my knight, so let's do it. So with the c4, I not only control d5 square, for example, and prepare the good position for my bishop on c3. It can also happen that I will just play c4, c5, kicking the bishop away, yeah, just giving up the d5 square, but occupying the diagonal h2, b8 finally with my bishop. And then maybe adding a queen to e5, and this tandem will deliver checkmate in threats along diagonal h2, b8, something like this. Now, of course, I'll play bishop c3. All right, let's take here. Starts looking quite ugly for black, so queen is going to f5. Right, and h5 is kind of hanging, I don't know. Rook d6 looks interesting here, followed by, for example, bishop e5, but it looks like just an exchange to me. So maybe it makes sense for me to start with knight e4 here, intending to play knight b5 or maybe knight b3. Both look interesting. Let's do it. Let's try. Knight e5 was also a move, of course. Probably the best one. Just occupying this square finally and, yeah, improving the position. Black is in a serious time trouble here. So that's giving me a chance to play this knight b5. Now, of course, white is winning. Right after a simple knight d6 and bishop e5. Lost, right? Yeah, so we didn't quite start the game here, so it was the opening stage, the probably well-known theory, right? So knight f6 here. So I think c4 immediately is a move, which is much better than king b1. So to king b1, I think black doesn't have to spend the time on rook e8 and play c5 immediately, just undermining the center. And I don't have a chance to put the bishop on c3 because knight e5 is coming. So rook e8 is just a waste of time, but, well, after this, I think black's position is also playable. Here, maybe d takes c5 was premature, slightly. It's possible to improve white's position with the help of, let's say, knight e5 immediately, just occupying this good square. I think it is the most promising thing. So if bishop takes c5, d takes c5, we have a typical situation here that happened in many different classic games, including Karpov playing with black against Hort, if I'm not mistaken, maybe against Lubojevic, somebody. And also, no, the classic game was Geller against Hort in this pawn structure, Kasparov against Vukic, I do believe, or somebody. Yeah, so there are a lot of interesting things. So there is the point behind having these pawns on e5 and h5. So now we have kind of box on the king side, so black can do nothing there because every move with the pawn leads to the weakening of the position, while white can just push his pawns like f4, g4, then finally f5 or maybe g5. So provoking some weaknesses and maybe creating a pass pawn there, while black is kind of quite passive here. So taking on e5 this way is not very promising for black. If black takes on d4, I take with the bishop. And again, taking on e5 is simply not possible here because bishop takes e5 and well, I win a lot of material. Also, we can notice already that white has kind of majority on the queen side, 3 against 2, and can probably just proceed with the c5, maybe even next move. The knight is very annoying in the sense of exerting pressure on this f7, so queen is constantly pinned to this pawn, and well, black can't really exploit his majority on the king side. So once black plays something like f6, g6 becomes constantly weak, and that is what h5 intends to achieve, in fact, so to create this outpost for the knight. So what white has to do here is just to support the knight with the f4 pawn, let's say, and once black plays f6, there is knight to g6, e5 is prevented, e6 becomes weak, and knight on g6 is quite good with the annoying pressure there, right? So that is the point behind white's setup. And I think that, yeah, king b1 is just too slow. c5 was good against king b1 immediately. So just undermining the pawn and preventing me from getting to this very natural and very pleasant setup with the bishop on c3. And that's why probably I should have played c4 and move a go. All right. So let's go further. Here is another challenger. Okay, Redix and Azure missed finally. So let's play Redix first. I do hope he's in line now. Let's wait a bit. Yeah, he's online and tries to surprise me with the e3 move. Okay, let's play solid. d5, d4. So it's not very dangerous for black, but still black has to be precise here. There are usually several approaches to this position. The one is just to undermine the center with the c5. Another one is just to bring the bishop somewhere to g4 maybe. And to play e6 after that, which usually guarantees that the bishop isn't passive. But if I play bishop g4 here, then after c4, c6, queen b3, my pawn on b7 may be under attack and maybe simply not very pleasant. So I will stick to c6 move just to start with. Now c4, which is very nice, forcing me to play openings I don't really know. So I expected something more modest, maybe bishop d3 or something, but okay, c4 is good. Now I definitely don't want to bring my bishop to g4 because this leads to exactly this queen f b3 move, attacking b7, and if I put my queen on b6, there is c5, forcing me to exchange queens on b3, which opens up the a file, and typical plan b4, b5 is very annoying usually. So what to do instead? Let's play solid. Let's play e6. So this is kind of triangle Slav with already played e3 move, so one of the main lines. No Botvinnik variation, no this bishop g5 stuff. All right, how to play this correctly? How to play this correctly? So what is going to do what? To play bishop d3 and e4 at some point. Should I care? Of course, I should. So in any case, I have to complete my development. And probably I will stick to the approach with d takes c4, then maybe b5 and a6, something like this. Maybe even right now. So takes here. I can recall that I played this when I was a kid. So the point here is that I want to undermine the position with the c5 move at some point. If I have a chance, of course. This a4 stops me from playing c6, c5. No questions. On the other hand, this weakens b4, which I can probably use slightly later. And I think that I have to play b4 here. Maybe immediately, maybe just in a move. If I play b4 now, then knight goes to e4. Right, just controlling c5. I don't want it. If I complete my development with the bishop b7, then e4 comes, but then I have sort of counterplay based on b4 and c5 undermining activities. Yeah, so let's try bishop b7 to start with, just to complete a development. Knight e4. Control on c5, so let's control this square as well. Knight e7, completing a development. So now there is a big question, if I can play c5. Because if I can play c5, I'm fine. If not, well, I'm in a big trouble. Because my bishop on b7 will be just awful if white manages to blockade my c6 pawn, let's say. So I have to do everything to come up with this c5, maybe right now. Yeah, right now it looks just natural, because now bishop d3 is not protected. I don't think bishop d2 is good. So let's try it. Knight e4 is under attack. Maybe I'm just overestimating my position now, but it feels like okay. So I have some counterplay in the center. Okay, let's take it. I hope there is something. So let's remove queen takes a8 because I think white will take on a8. Now I exert some pressure here. And if I want, I can of course take on f3 right now, damaging the pawn structure, but after queen f3, g takes f3, cd4, ed4, well, and rook b8, I will probably win my material back, right? If I put my rook on b8 right now, just intending doing it, then bishop goes back to e2. So if I want to damage the pawn structure, I think I have to do it right now. So bishop takes f3. Takes here now. By the way, white can think of not taking on d4 here. That would be an interesting idea. Yeah, just like this. But now, let's exert pressure on b2. Okay. So I tried to force white to take on d4, in fact, because in this case the pawn structure will be completely damaged, so we'll have some chances. But if white plays something like e4, it will be considered also as achievement, because in this case there are simply a lot of different vulnerabilities from my point of view. But maybe I'm just missing something here, you know. Right now white is doing well. But now I have some tricks against this bishop. Very interesting. All of a sudden, he also has some tricks. Yeah. I'm in a time trouble. And I don't know what to do here. Maybe I'm just missing some tactics. Some simple tactics, I mean. Oops. Okay, 2 should be played. Yeah, it feels like a slightly better position for black. Maybe not even slightly better, but I have no time simply. So I will be probably lost in time. Now position is also bad. It's just very, very bad. Yeah, I'm just losing here. Yeah. Very strange game. Very strange game. I think, well, was not that bad idea to come up with this counterplay. I mean, after this, maybe I overestimated my position slightly. Well, this happens simply. There is no problem with this. But I think here I'm fine. So I should be fine 100%. So I played rook b8, bishop c1. Probably I should have played slightly more straightforwardly. I mean, just to take on e3, let's say, without thinking about this pawn d4 anymore. F takes e3. Now let's say just knight to d5. Create a simple threat of just bishop f6 exerting pressure in this b2. And this bishop on c1 is very passive, and the pawn structure is not that great. I have very good centralized knight on d5, so I have to be fine at very least. There is probably a sort of threat like knight e3 followed by rook b3 at some point, so at least white has to be careful about that. There's an idea of bringing the bishop to c5. There are a lot of interesting ideas for black, and white struggles to coordinate his pieces. I started doing something not very clear stuff. So knight e5, then knight b6. I'm not sure this was really necessary because, well, I just put my knight on strange position. But at very least here, I should have definitely played knight to a4 immediately. Simply attacking b2 pawn and not giving white a chance to play b4. Because now, when I played bishop f6, this b4 appeared very annoying, so white activated his position. So knight a4 was good, just attacking here. If white takes here, all right, I can simply take on b2. And the pawn structure is much better for black, so this position looks very promising. So still most likely somewhere around the equality, but very interesting, right? So if white doesn't take on d4, okay, how to protect b2? It's not clear to me. So here black is more than fine, in my opinion, already. There is an interesting line, e d4, knight takes b2, and bishop f4, attacking the rook, intending to play rook to b1, pinning my knight, but I just put my rook on b4. In this case, my rook is protected, bishop is still hanging, and d4 starts hanging as well. All right? Yeah, in any case, thanks for the game. So you played very nice game and actually used the advantage in time, creating threats, just, yeah, blundering nothing, absolutely, and very good. So slightly later, I guess, I made a mistake somewhere here. So after bishop b3, rook c3 was still playable, but after bishop a4, I was really afraid of this b6 and completely missed this bishop d2. So what to do here, I'm not sure. Maybe something like knight d3, attacking the bishop c1. But once again, I wasn't sure about this b6. Just quickly get into b7. Maybe it's not that dangerous because I have bishop e5. But having not so much time on the clock, I was really afraid of this idea. But maybe I was wrong. So knight d3 looks solid. I just attack the bishop, forcing the bishop to d2 most likely. And now rook goes to a3, attacking this guy. But this guy can go back to c2 if necessary, so I still don't achieve anything. Here is something like rook a2, possible, knight to e5, just attacking f3. Also maybe potentially annoying. So position is full of tactics, so you simply need much more time on the clock to understand what is going on here. All right, thanks for the game. Azure Mist is the next one. Let's play. e4. c5. Knight f3, d6. d4. So knight off, bishop e2. This is probably the most solid thing that can happen against knight off. So bishop e2. Bishop e7. Okay. You spent too much time in the opening for a 5-minute game. Yes, true. True. Okay, so here there are a lot of different ways for white to play. I usually prefer this strangely looking queen d3 move, preparing knight to d5. That is the idea behind this move, because I protect e4 pawn. Also, I have in mind to bring my queen to g3. Sometimes it is also interesting and can be promising. Here, just play knight e5. And knight takes d5. Okay. Now, that's why probably bishop e6 is slightly early, in my opinion. But, well, many players also play this. So just taking with a knight, spending the time on the move with the bishop, but saving bishop's pair on the board. Why not? But bishop d7 is, well, slightly dubious to me, because it grabs the square from the own knight, which can be a problem. I mean, developing this guy now. Of course, there is still a5 move, but it's not necessarily a good idea for black to play a5 here. And b5. Well, this weakens a lot, come on. Can't be that good. But at the moment it looks very natural. Maybe it's also playable. Let's see. Yeah, it looks interesting. But okay, let's regroup the pieces. So queen goes away, just not to be vulnerable after b5 takes c4. And now I have 2 against 1. And some vulnerable squares on the queen side in general, so I would be happy to exploit the weakness of a5, for example. Bishop f5. So now black starts feeling the need to bring the knight to the game. I have to complete the development. So there is the question where to put the bishop. Most likely on e3, it's just a natural square for the bishop, controlling c5 and b6 squares. Now I guess it makes sense for me to put the queen on d2 to control a5 square. There was an interesting question. Isn't the general advice to only play knight e5 if white can recapture with a piece? It doesn't work when you play neither. So in some lines, of course, you can come up with the long maneuver, bringing the knight to e3 and then trying to occupy d5. But if black reacts correctly, it's hardly ever possible to recapture with a piece in neither. So it's a typical plan to put the knight on d5 to recapture with the pawn and to have this majority on the queen side. It happens in the vast majority of games. So now after a5, if I play bishop b5 immediately, which looks very natural, right, to bring the bishop to c6, white will struggle after a4. So my knight will be kicked away to c1 and black will just get more space. So I think it's much better for me to start with a4 move, fixing the pawn on a5. Potentially, it can be a weakness that I will attack. And now I bring the bishop to b5. Yeah, looks very good for white. Now a5 is under attack, maybe. So black has to be very careful. Bishop f6. Okay, what about taking on a5? Just taking the pawn. If knight takes d5, then knight goes to c6, intermediate move, and I win the knight on d5, I think. If knight takes a4, then rook takes a4, protect and everything. So I think it's kind of blunder, you know. Let's take it and see. Can't be bad. Knight takes d5 gives me a chance to play knight c6. Intermediate move, just attacking the queen, and knight on d5 will be hanging. Alright, takes bishop, takes rook, and takes another minor piece, but anyway, I will have what? I will have the queen against the rook and the minor piece, so just enough. Just enough. To take with the king or just to take with the rook? I'll take with the rook. And now I have to activate my pawns here on the queen side. d5, let's say bishop c6. b5. Just go into queen a5, I think. There are no limits at all. So now, just to say the queen on the board or not, so I can potentially just take on e3, I think, after bishop d4. Just take on d4, rook d4, a7, rook goes away somewhere, just take on f5, and then a8. So it's kind of simplification, but I don't think it's needed. I mean, why not just to go here on a5 and then a7, so saving the queen on the board. I don't think I need these problems. Yeah, but my conversion was probably not ideal. I guess black now has some chances. Well, probably it's just a feeling, in fact. Let's go to queens. Yeah. Good try, but not enough, in fact. So where black made a mistake, I think that putting the bishop back to d7 is slightly strange. So it was better, in my opinion, just to put the bishop on c8, because anyway there is no uh, good work for the bishop on d7 currently, and then to bring the knight to the game first. And only then to see to play b5 or not to play b5, because b5, as we saw, is not necessarily that great. Just came back, and after this exchange, okay, this position on the queen side became slightly more vulnerable for black, despite black managed to get rid of my c4 pawn, and at first glance just opened some files to play over, but in fact, these files are now open for white, in my opinion. I just have more pieces there. So black naturally has to try to do something on the king side to bring the pawn to f5, to f4 maybe, something like this, grabbing the space, trying to come up with the attack on the king side, and the knight is really needed somewhere on f6 to support all this. Here what happened after bishop f5, bishop e3, very natural setup. I just want to play knight a5, and then knight to c6. If my knight gets to c6, it's over. So a5 is kind of forced here, more or less, and I just blockade this pawn and it becomes a weakness. So after bishop here, I can play bishop c6 if I want. So for example, bishop e4 is not really dangerous. I just put the bishop on c6 and then a5 drops anyway. And if knight goes away, protecting a5, okay, just put the rook on c1, I exploit the weakness on c6 and so forth. So it's really, yeah, it's really bad for black in general. And the rest was just not very good conversion of mine. As I said, today I'm slightly not focused. I don't know why. So let's continue. Here is sets or CCETS. Don't know. D4, knight f6. C4, E6. Knight c3, bishop b4, queen c2, so we play classic Nimzo. Knight f3. And here we can play c5 if we want. We can play also d5, we can play d6. Let's play d6, solid. Bishop d2. This is very tricky plan. It's very tricky plan. So the idea is very natural. White wants to play a3 and to recapture with the bishop still controlling e4 square. Very good, in fact. So how to play against this correctly? So let's try c5 move. I mean, after bishop d2, I don't really want to take on c3. Maybe I'm completely wrong here with this bishop a5 idea, but let's try it. That's why I played c5, to prevent this b4. So now I think I can control the situation more or less. So this doesn't look that awful. In fact, to have the bishop on a5 here. So the only problem now is my queen, but I don't think that white has a chance to do something really harmful to my position immediately. Especially if I play knight c6, I have knight d4. So let's say bishop f4, knight d4, knight d4, c d4, b4. This may be annoying because my d4 is pinned. Well, maybe it makes sense for me to start with queen e7. But then bishop comes to f4, intending to use the vulnerability of this d6. Okay. Can I fight with that? I'm not sure. Okay, queen c7, then knight b5. This is annoying. That's true. So let's put the queen on e7. This is a safe square in my opinion. So now I really want to do something with the d4 square quickly. I think bishop f4 was the most promising move. So now I just put my knight on c6, protecting my bishop and controlling d4 already. And now I want to do the following. So first h6, preventing bishop g5. And then maybe even something like e5. But e5 weakens d5, so it is a double-edged decision. I can do bishop takes c3 and e5 though. Slightly risky, of course, but I think I have good compensation for it. Because I already managed to put my pawns in dark squares, and after this e5, I just want to bring my knight to d4. And I prepare development of my bishop c8, so yeah, maybe not the best approach, but definitely playable. Feels like that at least. I guess white should be slightly better after all. So just because of pair of bishops, which is long term quite annoying for black, and also the vulnerability of the d5 square. So it is also a long term problem for black. But we will see. '92. All right, so this actually gives me a chance to play knight d4 if I want. And I probably do want to play knight d4. Why not? This looks like a very active square. So, to be honest, I expected something like e3, just covering d4 square and limiting the activity of my knight. Because now I think, at very least, I'm fine. At very least. And there is a good question with which pawn to take. I guess that e takes d4 gives me more chances. Because I just started attacking e2, and my queen becomes active. But cd4 is also good. You know, let's take with the pawn. e5. Now bishop g4 or maybe bishop f5 looks interesting. So I definitely have to solve the problem of my bishop somehow. So let's bring the bishop to f5. I think knight f6 is now forced with check. Otherwise I just grab the piece for nothing. Now I have slight advantage in space, but at the moment there is a problem with the b7 pawn. So let's put the rook on b8. Then I'm going to play b6 maybe. And then to reactivate the rook. Yeah, just like that. I didn't want to give up a pawn on b7. It was also probably playable, but we play solid chess today, so... no sacrifices of that kind, right? Why should we? Rook d8 now. e3. Undermining d4, but weakening f3 square. What about this move. I'm not sure if it gives me anything, but I can come up with a very annoying blockade there. So let's say like this. Queen is really active now. But still, I'm not sure if I can achieve anything out of it. So I definitely want to save my queen on the board now. So let's put the queen here. Now rook d4, activating the rook. Now there is a pressure against c4. Pawn structure is almost symmetrical, but there are some differences, right? So white has some vulnerable spots, especially after this exchange. So now c4 is hanging. And a3 as well was hanging. Now I simply have extra material and good chances to convert it. So rook a4, protecting a7 and attacking a3, occupying ideal position with the rook. And now there is a question how to improve my position. So probably to start with f6 and rook f7. I guess it's playable. No, it was stupid, completely stupid. Right, now I have to play this. I should have started with, of course, yeah. It's really stupid, my friends. I'm sorry for that. That is just like a patzer play, absolutely. Yeah. That was just a patzer play. Come on. So stupid. I'm sorry for that, really. So f6. Yeah, that was strange. So what I had in mind, why I played this f6, in fact. So I wanted to play king h7 initially. So king h7, rook here attacking this pawn. Now king g6, protecting this pawn. And here, at some point, I wanted to come up with this f6, and then rook f7, just controlling the 7th rank and improving the position gradually. So still have an extra pawn and so forth. But then I thought, okay, if I will play f6 anyway, followed by rook f7, why wouldn't I do this right now? And I completely missed the fact that after simple move, rook c3, I can't play rook f7, because if I play rook f7 now, there is rook c8 check, forcing them back to f8, and then rook goes to c7 with a disaster along the 7th rank. So this is a typical trick that I actually faced many times. I even won a lot of blitz games using this trick, and there was really a pity that I missed it myself. It's a very strange move, f6, that leaves me without chances. As for the rest of the game, I have a feeling that white could have played much better. So knight e2 was just too passive, giving me a chance to get to d4, which I actually wanted to do. So much better was just to play e3, controlling this square. So I don't think there is a big problem with the weakening of d3 square. If I play e4, okay, then knight goes to d2 if you want. There is also, by the way, the possibility to take on f6 and take on e4, which should be considered as well. But even if you just go to d2, there is nothing wrong with that. So the point is that the knight gradually gets to c3 at some point and then to d5 finally. And this e4 is more of a weakness, not a big power. So it doesn't give me great possibilities. So I have to protect this pawn mainly, and I simply don't have a good possibility to bring the knight to d3 or something. But even if the knight gets to d3, it's not the end of the world. So it will be still vulnerable because the only real support is provided by this pawn e4, and this pawn can be captured, this pawn can be undermined, and so forth. So e3 was a move here, and I think after e3 white should be long-term better. So pair of bishops, this square on d5, and I would say this square on d5 is the main feature. So that is actually black's main vulnerability, black's main weakness. And white has a lot of plans. It is possible to double rooks along the d file. It is possible to bring the knight to d5 gradually. It is possible to prepare b4. It is also possible to regroup the pieces like b3 and queen b2, exerting pressure on e5, and so forth. So black has no active counterplay. Once I got to d4, I was already quite good. So after this ed4, I think at very least black is no longer bad. All right, so black has slightly more space, this pleasant position with the pawn on d4, possibility to play along the d file, and so on. Maybe somewhere here I lost the chance to come up with a better position, so I just played bishop g4, bishop f3, which appeared not very promising idea. I don't know how could I have played better than that. Maybe just doubling rooks along the d file, or playing something like d3, but I don't think that d3 is the best move here, but also deserves attention, of course. Just getting to the position with the passed pawn. Don't know. Interesting game in any case. Thanks a lot for doing it. So remember e3, okay? And actually one more game, and I think we will finish with this for today. As for next stream, it is scheduled for tomorrow. It will happen at 8 p.m. Central Europe time. You're welcome. You can set a reminder if you won't miss it. If you want not to miss it, and you won't miss it. So it's not a guarantee. Just remember the time and join me during tomorrow's show. So tomorrow, as usual, during Experimental Mondays, I will try and will be trying something unusual, like the lines I usually don't play, so you'll have more chances to beat me. And I do hope that tomorrow I'll be in a better state of health, in a better state of mind, because what I did today was just awful, in my opinion. So very pale chess, in fact. So knight f6, d4. Okay, so we have Italian game. One of the interesting lines that were quite popular many years ago, many centuries ago, I would say. Nowadays, it is no longer that popular because black has very clear way to actually come up with very safe and promising position. There is an interesting discussion in live chat about the fact that I live in Germany and play for Ukraine. So I represent Ukrainian Chess Federation. So I don't play for the national team because it is too strong. It's not my level. And this is interesting. So usually white plays bishop takes f7 and queen b3 instead. This actually gives me a chance to come up with a very pleasant position after both d7, d5 now, or even queen e7. I don't know what is better. I think d5 is just okay. Attacking the bishop, and if bishop goes to b5, just knight goes back to c6. So at the moment I have an extra pawn, but very soon white will regain it. But I will have a very good position with the bishop having no counterpart. Yeah, so now I take c4 and castles. All right, so white doesn't take the pawn doesn't win the pawn back, and probably wants to exploit my bad king. That was probably the idea. Alright, how to make it solid. How to avoid unnecessary complications. So first of all, I have to get rid of this queen. This queen is really annoying. But is it really possible? I'm not sure. Because if I play knight e6, just protecting c4 and covering diagonal a3, f8, preparing castling, white will play rook e1 check. And I can't play bishop e6 because of d5. That is annoying. So I will be probably forced to bring my king to f8, which is ugly. That is what I want to avoid. If I start with the a5 move here, so after queen takes c4, I'm fine, I just castle. But if white plays something else, for example, queen b5 check, I'm not sure I will have a pleasant defense. So let's try something ugly. I think my position is still quite solid after that. And by the way, queen d6 was also a move I simply didn't consider. I don't know why. So queen d6 was probably the best move. I have no idea why didn't I play this. Alright, now a5 looks like a natural move, but first I have to protect c4 pawn. So I think this should be played here to start with. So if I'm lucky enough, I will bring my bishop to d5 position. Let's see. Yeah, there is a question from Redix. Why not queen d6? Really, why not queen d6? I have the same question. That was so natural. I just didn't see this move. Need to relax a bit and to get back to the normal shape. .95. All right, so c4 is under attack. c4 is under attack. Can I play, for example, a5 now? And queen goes to c5, and this can be annoying. So most likely it's time to go away with the king even further away, like this. So maybe I will play h6, king h7 later on. For now, I just want to avoid complications connected with this diagonal a3, f8. Knight c4. Okay. Not sure if I can take on c4 followed by queen d4 because there is queen b7 that I missed. But there is bishop d5, but then bishop takes, queen takes a8 and rook e8, interesting checkmate. So I would rather play this move. Which is obviously bad, of course. Yeah, I'm playing just like an idiot, this game. So maybe I have to play one more, because it's just a shame to finish the show with this piece of crap. Let's look at this position. So knight g6 was possible. Knight g6 was really awful for me to play against. So now at least I have some chances to reactivate my pieces slightly. I'm not sure white has a lot of possibilities here after a5, so queen b5 looks just natural. Don't know what my opponent is thinking of. Yeah, because this move gives me a chance to play rook c8, for instance. And now I can play b5 next move, winning the game. Okay, there is no chance for white to survive it. Just a lot of extra material and simply no time for my opponent. But honestly, even this position is slightly annoying for black to play. Queen d4. Okay, let's just solve this problem once and forever. Just as that, right? Yeah, so very strange play. I don't know, why didn't I play queen d6 here? So everything was correct, right? So takes here. Well, to start with, bishop f7 is kind of the line that many players choose. So after this, and king f8, queen b4, queen e7, white is forced to exchange queens, otherwise there is a very annoying discovery. And after this exchange, well, the endgame is more or less equal, but potentially black has good practical chances because black has a bishop with no counterpart and slightly better pawn structure, because this pawn, as you can see, is kind of abandoned. So after queen b3, I just played d5, right? Why not? Queens here takes castles. And now, yes, of course, queen d6 was much better than knight d6, because it is a tempo move. If queen takes, I just take with the knight. If queen takes on c4, I just castle, no problems. If queen goes to b5, okay, I can play even c6, why not? Bishop d7 is also playable, but c6 is completely good. So queen somewhere, I just castle and no problems at all. Maybe there is something like queen e1, which can be potentially tricky, but I think after simple queen e7, protecting the knight, and again preparing knight e6, I'm fine. Okay. So strange question, Andre. Who's better in chess, you or your brother? Of course, I am better in chess because my brother stopped playing chess when he turned 10 years, I think. Yeah, so the one which you mean probably, so Alexander Ostrovsky from United States isn't my brother. So we just have similar surnames, not more. All right, so I'm going to play one more game, and let it be Leon 81. Yeah. So the last one, let's try to play it really the normal way, not like the previous one, missing a lot of resources for black and white. So French defense, this knight c3 line, knight f3. But in face you're similar. That is fantastic comment. b6. Bishop e7. Okay, now why not bishop d3, for example? I'm not forced to castle long, right? I can do castling short. And this kind of provokes black to clarify the things with the pawn structures, maybe to play c4. Now b4. Okay, now I think I can do what? bring my bishop to e2. I still wanted to develop my bishop, but this knight b4, I wanted to say wasn't necessarily a good idea, but now I can see the point. So Black just exchanges a bad bishop. Okay. So probably this bishop d3 was just stupid. No questions. Okay, let's castle. Knight takes. So at least some improvement of the position. So I want to play c3, protecting d4. And why not to do this right now? Now I think my only chance is to come up with something active on the king side. So let's play f5 immediately. Just trying to make d5 pawn slightly more vulnerable and to come up with the attack after knight f4, knight takes d5, something like this. So the question, how many GM norms do you have? I have only one. Unfortunately, only one at the moment. E takes f5, alright. Knight to f4. That was my idea, just to attack this d5. Maybe to grab it one day. So it's a typical thing for French defense when you have the pawn on f4 and there is no sufficient defense of f5 square, so you can play this f5 without much preparation, just sacrificing the pawn. But it's not necessarily a great idea here, in this particular case. So we'll see. At least it looks very simple for white to play now. So there is an object of attack on d5, there is a possibility to bring the knight to h5, for example, continue with the bishop h6, with some attack against g7. And black has to think what to do. So d5 is under attack. To protect it, probably black has to make something strange like knight d7 to b8, which is also good for white. We'll see. Knight a5, preparing knight to c4. I think it's just a natural thing to play b3, covering c4 square. Well, knight e5 was also playable, I guess, but I don't want to give black's knight a possibility to get to c4. Attacking my queen, probably grabbing my e3 bishop, and so forth. Knight b8. Okay. So I didn't win the pawn d5 back, but I can focus on some sort of attack on the king side, I guess, because now after knight b8, black has some problems with coordinating his pieces. At least it feels like that. So can this knight h5 potentially be anything dangerous for black? Yeah, it can be easily. So let's bring the knight to h5 and see what is going on. So at least there is some pressure on g7 now. I also have some resources connected with probably knight to g5 or something. Just unleashing the rook, attacking f5, and so on. And if black plays g6 at some point, it will be just a weakening of the king side, right? f6. Okay, this is also kind of weakening out the position. So now I have two promising options here. So to take on f6, maybe even twice, and to try to use dark squares that become quite weakened with my bishop remaining on the board and the knight jump into e5. I can also do something like e6 now, having this passed pawn, but it can be also vulnerable there. I can think of taking on g7. I can think of playing bishop h6 now. There is also an interesting move, knight to h4 right now, attacking f5. But there is something like g6. What is really cool here is something like to take on g7, then to play knight h4, bringing the knight to f5 at some point, and just to attack this way, having two pawns for a sacrificed piece, but great chances to break through there. What would be nice. Well, let's see also to bishop h6. So bishop h6, if g takes h6, then queen takes h6 with a threat of checkmate on g7, and with rook f7 there is e6, winning the game. So yeah, let's play bishop h6. I think this is the most promising continuation now. Yeah, there was a bishop h6 suggestion in chat, by the way. True. You are much more sharp-minded today, my friends. That is nice. Yeah, it's lost. So rook is forced back. If black doesn't want to lose the material, then I anyway take on g7 and so forth. So what was better for black to do here is probably to actually stop me from playing f5 at some point. So everything was more or less okay. So castle c3, knight c6, but well, I have a feeling that there was a possibility to play in a more solid way. So maybe something like g6 to start with. Maybe not even hurrying up with castling, so probably there is a chance to castle long here. So just to play g6. But the truth is, after g6 I can still play f5, alright? So, really don't know how to play this position correctly, because this plan with the f5 really looks very promising to me, each and every time when I see that. And maybe it was better at least to avoid playing knight a5, so after this, to play this knight b8 immediately, and then to try to do something to prevent this really simple activity on the king side. So at least to play g6, well, it weakens the position, but gives black some counter chances. Yeah, because giving me a chance to take on d5, let's say, isn't also the good idea for black. Isn't the idea 100%. Yeah, so I do like this position. To play with white, especially in blitz, it is very simple. You just activate all your pieces, attack vulnerabilities that are very obvious and noticeable, and black struggles to find a good coordination possibility. So yeah, I don't want to say that in general this plan is not sound. I mean, to play knight b4 and bishop a6, because it looks very natural to get rid of this limited French bishop, but then you have to do everything to cover f5, and well, you actually gave me a chance to exploit this vulnerability. Okay, another question, was black forced to take on f5? Also an interesting idea. So after f5, if black doesn't take, I will actually not play f6. f6 doesn't really give me anything at the moment. I will just put the knight on f4 still. So just occupy this square, attack e6. I do actually the same like in the game, right? But with the pawn on f5. So in this situation, I would say that yes, taking on f5 was more or less forced, because black anyway struggles, but after e takes f5, at least black struggles for the pawn. Here, if I just put the knight on f4, black struggles for free. All right, thanks a lot for being with me today. As I said before, you're welcome to join the live stream tomorrow at night, so around 8 p.m. Central Europe time. I will try some unusual lines. You will have more chances to beat me, and I do hope I will be just much better prepared in the sense of health, state of mind, and so forth. So I do hope I will be much more focused to come up with a greater quality of play. I also hope that you learned something new today, that my explanations were instructive. So just let me know in your comments below the video. Would be nice to know your attitude to all this stuff. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel to be notified when I'm live, and also to get the access to instructive chess videos of different sorts. You can find the short link to my YouTube channel just below my name. There is a phrase "support is welcome," because it is really welcome. And there is also a short link, bit.ly/Mostrovsky. Just go there, press subscribe, and also turn on the reminder of live shows. Thanks a lot for your attention. See you very, very soon. Bye-bye.